is a clinical data management specialist. And if you are not able to join Google Meet link, then you can get that through our YouTube channel. So I will directly go to the resource person.
Hi everyone, good evening, and I welcome you all to this session for clinical data management. So, I'll be sharing my screen after 1 to 2 minutes. First, let us kindly talk about PharmaGene DRX. This is a very good platform which will help all of you students to get forward, go ahead in your career, and choose the right career option in whichever zone you want to go after your B Pharm. So they will be basically bridging the gap against academics and industries, as there are various kind of industries, various careers, so that you can choose the right one and go ahead. So I will share my screen. Just confirm me once if once you're able to see the screen. So let me know once the screen is visible and also if I am clearly audible. So we'll give 1 to 2 minutes for people to join, as many people are joining right now. Okay, so let's move ahead with this. First, let me give you a brief introduction about myself. Hi everyone, I am Prochita Acharya. I have completed my bachelor's in pharmacy from NSHM Knowledge Campus, Kolkata. And after that, I have completed my M.Pharm from BIT Mishra in Ranchi. And after that, while doing with the scholarship, and after that, it was my first job in Pfizer in clinical data management, where I joined as a junior data manager in clinical data management, clinical data sciences. After 2 years, that is completing like 1.5 to near to 2 years, I got promoted to associate data manager. Okay, so now let's move to the next slide. While having or wanting to have a career in clinical data management, there are very some basic terminologies which might some of you have come across or you will be coming across in your semesters ahead. So these are some things like which are very basic. So this is just a recap of certain things. So, as we all know, drug, this is a kind of word which is used nowadays in your semesters or in your daily studies, or you will be also hearing a lot of it when you have a go ahead in working for companies. So, this is basically a substance which is used as a medical substance for treatment of various kind of diseases in patients. And clinical trial, this is now a procedure in which there are certain phases, as we all know, in which various drug molecules are screened, and these clinical trials help us to have certain medical substances come in the market. So there are basically, this is a procedure which checks in the like volunteers, subjects, or patients, whatever term it is used to. Next is adverse event. So, if I say it in very simple words, an adverse event is when suppose a patient is taking a medicine. Every medicine has different kinds of side effects. So when that side effect is just termed as an adverse event, that is why it is a very common bookish definition which we all have read and you guys will also be reading. So this is an untoward medical occurrence in a patient. And then we have SE. This is also a very daily term in a person who is engaged with CDM. So this is like the serious adverse event. Serious, we say when the toxicity grade starts grading from 3 to 5, 3, 4, 5. Then it is called a serious adverse event. So that is why it will always have a relation with toxicity grading. Now, concomitant medications, which we in short call it as conmeds, which is also a very common term, and it is a combination of one or more drugs. That is, in every studies or every projects you work on in CDM, these are some very common terms which you will be seeing or working upon. So now drug interaction and drug withdrawal. This is also a very common thing. Interruption or withdrawn, as we understand in very simple things, that means something which has been taken up, that is it has been withdrawn. So during that certain period, like a period of 1 to 2 days or 2 to 5 days, the certain drug which was being given to the patient or the subject, that will not be given, as in it will be interrupted or withdrawn, it will be taken up. The next one is the protocol, which is a very basic thing of any study or any project you work upon. It is basically a full material or a detailed plan in where the study will be designed, like every treatment, every procedures, how many patients will be enrolled, how many sites will be there, so how what medical history we require of the patient who will be enrolled in the study. So all these things will be having a detailed instruction in the protocol. Now, medical history. Medical history is nothing but when a patient or subject comes in to be enrolled in a certain study, they will be having certain records. Like a patient can have fever, they can have high pressure, they can have sugar, thyroid, anything. So that history will be recorded from the patient by the site person, as in the person who will be having a face to face communication at the hospital site where this clinical trial will be conducted. After that, only they will be enrolled in the study. Now, moving on to double blind, I guess many of you have come across this particular term in your studies. This is basically a trial where not the patient party, not the not the site person who is conducting the trial on behalf of the company. Nobody will be knowing what drug they are getting tested for, like what drug the patient is getting and for what purpose he or she is getting tested. And then next is randomization. So randomization is very simple. Like it is a person like a subject or a volunteer, whatever term you use, they will be randomly picked. Like randomization means they will be picked and then they will be enrolled in the study ahead. So that is called randomization. Now placebo is also a very common term. It is nothing but it is a look-alike of a substance which will be when if certain drug or a medicine is given to the subject to take. So that will be looking similar or tasting similar to the actual drug. So that acts as a placebo for the patient. And multi-center trial. Multi-center trial is on which basically all the studies in which we work stands upon. Like we will be having hospital sites across the country. Like suppose I have worked on Indian clinical trials, I have worked on USA clinical trials. If I take for India only as an example, so there we will be having sites across the cities, like across the states. So, moving on to the next one, these are little terms like study arms. So, basically, we have set A, set B, which are considered as study arm A, study arm B. So, that depends on how big your study is. In that way, the study arms will be divided. So here the very bookish language, it refers to each group or subgroup of participant, as in your volunteers or your patient or your subject, in which they will receive certain drug combinations or single drugs according to the study protocol. Outcomes. So every study will be having certain outcomes for which we are working, right? So that they have the medicines approved, which helps the patient to have a better life, which gives him rid of the disease he is going through. So that is called clinical outcomes. Now we have different kinds of study. As this, I'll be coming ahead next slides. So I'm not explaining this, but we have two different sets of study, like observational and interventional. And next is some very basic terms of CDM. This is EDC, that is electronic data capture, the design or the database in which we work daily basis. So that is called an EDC. Now before that, that's a live environment where the patients are having their vitals checked, the patients are ongoing medicines, drugs, and then before that we need to check whether this live environment is suitable for the patients. So for that we use UAT, that is user acceptance testing. And CRF is your case report forms, which you'll be using in very daily basis. After that, this is a common thing, so SDV, source data verification. Like once the patient is enrolled in the study, this is a certain thing which the hospital site person will be entering. Okay, now moving on to the next slide of a little bit of clinical research overview. If anyone has any questions regarding to this basic terms, you can go ahead. I'll give a 2 minute pause for that. Okay, I consider the silence as no. I'll be moving ahead. Okay. So, like the overview of clinical research is what I was just telling, the interventional studies and the observational studies. So, basically, observational studies are those kind of studies which you will also come across while your ahead semesters or something like that. In research studies like observational, these are the studies which will help the site person or the data managers like us who are working on the studies to collect information from the patient as they come to the site for their drugs, for their medicines, for their checkups, everything, so that we can have a look at the data of the participant who is getting enrolled in our study, which is already beforehand collected. Like it is not once the patient gets enrolled and then we are collecting all these informations. No, we have to collect once they are just soon they are enrolled in the study. And interventional studies. Interventional studies are basically drug related study, like in which there is a certain procedure, there is a certain medical activity, certain specific tests which we have to perform of the patient. Like if a female patient is enrolled, we have to check whether in the female patient has a childbearing potential or not. Then there are certain pregnancy tests, serum tests, urine tests, which we have to do once the patient gets enrolled in these kind of studies. So moving to the next slide, which is an overview of the clinical trial. So first, let us have a quick glance of this view. Let me know once it is audible and visible.
If you're interested in healthcare, you've probably heard of clinical studies, and you might know they're done to find out if experimental treatments are safe and effective. When experts talk about clinical studies, you'll hear expressions like double blind, comparative, multi-center, or adaptive, and maybe also study arms, statistical significance, bias, interim analysis, and above all, outcomes. Complicated stuff. What's it all about? Clinical studies are designed to answer specific scientific questions. For example, what side effects does a new drug have? Does it reverse or stop the disease it's designed to treat? Is it more effective than existing treatments? Can it be given alongside other drugs that are used for the same disease? In each case, the answer must come in the form of scientific data, not the impressions or opinions of the doctors or patients involved. These can be influenced by many factors which could bias the results. Studies are set up so as to make sure this doesn't happen. For a start, most studies are comparative. Half the patients get the experimental drug, the others get a standard treatment or a placebo, a mock-up that has no medicinal action. Most comparative studies are performed under double-blind conditions. Neither the patients nor the doctors know who's getting which drug or the placebo. So the two treatments must look exactly alike, and the patients entering the study are randomized, assigned on a purely random basis to one of the groups or arms of the study. The answers to most study questions lie in the statistical differences between the results obtained for each patient group. To ensure that enough data is gathered to answer the questions properly, a study must include the appropriate number of patients. How many this is depends on the questions being asked. This is why many studies involve several hospitals. These multi-center trials ensure adequate data as well as helping to safeguard objectivity. Even before a study is completed, enough data may have been collected to allow an interim analysis of its progress. This may lead to changes in the study, such as modification
market. So there needs to have some kind of screening. For that, we first test it on patients. Tested on animals, which is kindly called as preclinical trials. And after that, once that passes in animals, then we move on to phase 1. That preclinical, in sometimes it is called phase 0 also. And phase 1 is where we involve very small group of volunteers, which is also termed as subjects and patients. So those volunteers we will be choosing who has that particular disease. Like if I basically work on oncology trials, so in our studies we have certain number of patients who basically has maybe breast cancer or blood cancer or lung cancer. So currently I'm working on multiple cancer studies. So in our studies we have certain group, that is a small group, maybe 10 to 30, 30 to 50, like that kind of patients who come in for the studies. They get enrolled, and for whom they do not have the proper funding to have like the ongoing treatments or like the ongoing medications. So we as a company persons, they certainly fund those medications, those tests for those patients who get enrolled in these studies. So the next one is the phase 2 studies. From those 30 to 50 patients who got enrolled in our studies, from them, hardly few patients will be able to stick to phase 2, because we have certain drugs which are given in certain interventions, certain intervals, certain route of administrations, weekly, monthly, like many ways. So after that, they are given who are able to sustain up to phase 2, they will be performing on the next phase of the trial. And we will be also taking more patients who will be able to sustain the kind of treatment we will be offering for phase 2 clinical trials. Once they pass the phase 2 clinical trials, then they will be moving ahead to phase 3. if they are able to continue the treatment procedure, if they are not getting, withdrawing their consent, or they do not want to live in the midway of the trial, or they are not liking the trial. If any condition like that is not happening, then they will be moving ahead to phase 3, which is further like carried on a very huge number of patients, more than in phase 1 and phase 2. Like you can say it will be carried, it will be conducted or carried in many patients, up to, some studies have a volume up to 500. If we have vaccine studies, then they will be having a volume of 1000 plus, like that, because vaccine studies, like, they are conducted on huge volume of patients. So like that way, and once these patients have completed the full treatment procedure according to the company protocol, then they will be released, and they will be taken care, of course, by the company persons or the site persons who are there at the hospital site. And these medicines will then be taken a decision by the FDA once we have an approval that yes, this patient has got treated by this particular medicine, so we can have this medicine in the use of this disease. And then they will go for phase 4, which is called as post marketing surveillance trials. Now, like I was telling, that I have worked on Indian clinical trials. So basically, I have worked on phase 4 clinical trials. So it's a very interesting thing. You get to work only on the last part of the clinical trial. You have to see whether all the phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, all this data which is there of the subject, whether they have got the treatment correctly, whether they have passed all the phases correctly, they have performed their tests correctly, every vital thing you have to check very minutely. And because it's a phase 4 study, so once we as the data managers from the company say that we have no issues with the medication, then it will be released in the market. Again, it has to pass a FDA approval after that. Just a moment. Okay. So now moving on to the next slide, that is clinical data management. So clinical data management is a vast thing. Like when I joined my care, I started my career and joined Pfizer as a clinical data manager. So I was a junior, and then my journey started like that. So basically, if you sit for an interview, you are asked that what is your idea about a clinical data management? Like what happens in a clinical data management? So you can say that clinical data management is a vast thing. It basically deals, and why it is so important part of every clinical trial or every study that is ongoing. So things that happen, like it will be getting into certain certain high generation. We have medical records, like when we are enrolling suppose 10 subjects, 15 subjects, 20 subjects, so they will generate certain kind of medical records, right? They are having blood tests, they are having sugar tests, thyroid tests, and many kind of tests. If for cancer studies we have various tests like bone marrow, lesion assessments, they have many tests which they have to ongo maybe in weekly basis, monthly basis, like that, according to the company specified protocol. So it will generally collect the data from the hospital sites. They will analyze the data according to the company given completion guidelines, which is called as CCG. So in that document, we'll be having what all needs to be entered by the site person for the patient who is enrolled in the study. So here is the very basic process of CDM. Like first, how it starts generally. So we have CRF designing. CRF as in electronic case report forms. So who designs that? There are database designers, there are data managers, there are clinicians who will be designing the CRFs. So once that part is completed, then there will be annotation, CRF annotation, as in,
Excuse me, ma'am, I have a question.
yeah, sure, sure, yes, tell me.
What is the full form of CRF?
Case report form.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, so once they have completed this step, they will move on to CRF annotation. That is case report form. That is, annotation means nothing like how much amount of a dose will be given, whether it will be a IV, whether it will be a IP as in intraperitoneal or intramuscular or intravenous, how it will be given, in which route of administration it will be given, whether it will be given orally, whether it will be injected, or how, in how much quantity it will be given, in which frequency it will be given, weekly, quarter weekly, monthly, how much, and if weekly also, after how many weeks it will be given. So all these will be done over here in the CRF annotation. Once now this is completed, then it will be moved to database designing, which are work of certain programmers or certain designers. Like they will ideally be designing only the database, how it will be looking in the system. Like when we work, we have certain database, so we do not design that. That is ideally designed by database designer or database programmers, so that we will be get to see here in this database. Now once this is complete, they will be starting the data entry. Data entry is done by hospital persons, like the site persons who are daily basis communicating with the patient face to face. So after that is completed, then we will move to data validation. So what is data validation? Like basically, whether the data which they have collected from the patient, whether it is accurate or whether some modifications is required on it, or whether the data can go for the next phase of the study. So that is called data validation. So after that, we will be having discrepancy management, as in, like, discrepancy means what all errors we got in the data. Like after the data is entered, everything will be having an error. No site enters the data with full accuracy. There are discrepancy management, so there is a job for data managers in CDM. So we will be aligning the data according to the protocol, according to the completion guidelines. We will be identifying what actually is discrepancy management. We will be identifying the errors, we will be getting it rectified. We will be having rigorous discussions with clinicians, with site monitors, with site people who are there at the site with the patient on a daily basis. After this is completed and once it is error free and accurate, we will be moving to medical coding. Medical coding, it uses two dictionaries practically, that is Medra and Hudra. So Medra and Hudra has certain clinical coded terms. Like basically a subject is having fever or they are having high pressure. So that will be coded in a particular format which is there in this Medra dictionary. So that is not our job. That is to be done by the medical coder. But yes, next comes our part. Like once they have coded this and it appears in the database, then we will be seeing that whether they have coded perfectly or there is some error in it. If there is some error in it, we will be taking action according to that. So now data extraction. So data extraction is basically once all these steps are completed, then we will be having, there are certain kind of CRFs which are which varies from company to company, and mostly they are company confidential. So once they have like extracted the data which is accurate after every step completion, they will be moving to a final data lock, as in they will be locking the database, they will be freezing the database, where we work to freeze, to lock the data, that there will be no more changes there. What they have entered, we have identified, we have verified the errors, we have made it accurate, it is error free. We can go for the release of the data. That is a very huge task for data managers. Like, this is a very important and critical task. If we make any mistakes here, we are solely responsible for it. So once this is completed, then we will be having again it go for FDA approval. Then FDA approves it, and then we will be releasing it to phase 4. That is the post marketing surveillance, as in the medication is fit to go into the market. Okay, I'll be taking 1 minute pause. If any one of you have any questions, you can go ahead.
Ma'am, is MPharm necessary for getting job in CDM?
No, not like that, but it increases your chance of getting selected in companies. But we have people in our company, in our team, who have completed BPharm as Bachelors of Pharmacy, and BTech people also get admitted here. I mean, they also get to have this job. But yeah, MPharm is better. There, I mean, what to say, the selection criteria depends on that.
Ma'am, what are the job opportunities for a BPharm student in CDM?
In CDM, you can have companies like Cognizant, Wipro, IQVIA, then Syneos, PPD. All these are CRO companies, like contract research organization companies, where you will be working on these CDM, these clinical data management. You'll be handling the data, like these things. You can apply after your BPharm is completed. You can apply in those companies, but companies like Pfizer, Novartis, or Johnson and Johnson, Eli Lilly, you can apply for them also. But their selection criteria lessens. They give more priority to master student than to bachelors. But yeah, people get. We have in our teams bachelors people.
Ma'am, how is the growth in CDM for only a BPharm candidate?
It's similar to people having masters. Like, you start your career from here, and after that you proceed towards being a team lead. So like that way you will be joining as a junior. After that you will be promoted to an associate. Yeah, definitely there are certain criterias, work criterias. Like, you have to know certain things. When they find that you are ready to be moved to the next level, they will move you to the next level. Yes, your growth is not stagnant like we hear nowadays. I working in a company, I can tell you that your growth is not at all stagnant. You will be getting exposure daily basis, and it solely depends on the project you're getting assigned to.
Ma'am,
Like,
what
yeah,
ma'am,
yeah.
what are the functions of FDA here? And what is the full form of FDA?
It is like functional body which gives approval to certain drugs actually. And function of FDA is, when you are working on a clinical trial, you will be working in maybe one phase, or phase 1 or phase 2. Like, I am working on phase 1 studies now, which is just come. So there is, I will be working on it, somebody else will be working on phase 2. And when we reach towards the end of the study, like it is to be released in the market, then all our study documents will be going to FDA. If
And
they
ma'am,
yeah.
yeah, actually, ma'am, and another question.
Mhm.
What really happens in medical coding? That the one you said.
Yeah, yes. In medical coding, there's a team of people who works there. Like, we have medical coders, as in they will be coding from certain dictionaries, which I mentioned, Midra and Hudra. We have this adverse event. There is one CRF. Like, I just show. Yeah, so like here you see this particular image. Like, this one CRF will be there, which will be named as adverse event. In that we have one particular like line for medical coding. Like they will be coding it in the various numbers or in various certain terms, which is only visible to the medical coders. They will have to code that, as in they'll have to write it in a particular format, which we as data manager have to match, like whether it is meeting the criteria which is specified in the protocol or not.
Or if it isn't specified in the protocol, then what happens?
Then it is okay. Like we do not have to raise any further queries. It's absolutely fine and correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Ma'am,
Hmm.
is CRO best for doing a job in CDM?
That depends on particular individual's criteria actually. When I started my career, I had got opportunities from IQVIA and Cognizant, but I preferred for a sponsor company. That is like these companies, as in Pfizer, Novartis, Eli Lilly, and very few companies hire freshers. Among that, Eli Lilly is one which hires people. It depends on your CV. Very like a very true thing. It depends on your CV. If your CV is matching their criteria, getting screened, you are selected for the interview. Pfizer is also like that. We were the very first set of people who they had taken as freshers. There were only three people.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, so now moving on to this overview process of CDM. So we have already discussed this one. Like we will be getting to see this in our CRF designs. We see it on a daily basis. There are certain navigation tools. I could not prepare that slide as it is company confidential, so we are not allowed to show those things outside the company. So that is what, but it will look similar to what I have given here. Demography means like your birth, I mean the patient's birth year, date of birth, the gender of the patient, male, female, the race of the patient, as in they are Asian or Italian, or what is the race of the patient. Then your like it comes in this which region you belong from. All those details of the patient will be jotted down in this demography CRF. That is why you see her date of birth. If it is unknown, a cross sign will be here. Then your weight will be given. Then the height will be given. In certain studies, it will be in inches, in certain in centimeters. And the gender, of course. So now here, which we have discussed in details in this particular slide, it is just the work of every person who will be doing what. So data manager like us, they will be designing the protocol along with clinicians, along with hospital site monitors, doctors, and the site specific CRAs or the site specific monitors. So specific persons will be selected to design the protocols. Like in our, our designation, like as an associate or as a junior, we don't get to design the protocols. There are certain people in the senior position who are senior than us. They get to the chance for designing the protocol. So you need to have certain, years of experience to understand how a study will run, and then you can get this experience of designing in a protocol. Like that, somebody asked that if we work in a CRO or a sponsor, if you are working in a CRO, you will be exposed to these kind of activities on a very rapid basis, but in a sponsor they make you grow in a very small way. Like they will ensure that you have clear understanding and not give you, you have to complete this, you have to complete that, you have to complete this in certain timeline. No, sponsors don't work in that manner. But a CRO, if you get a job opportunity in suppose IQVIA or Cognizant, there from day one you will be like focused on certain things. They will make sure that your learning is on the point, your understanding is on the point. so that when you are working with sponsor company like us, when they act as clients for these companies like Pfizer, Lilly or Novartis, IQV act as clients, so you will be working for them. So there we I have in my team, I have people from Cineos, I have people from Icon. We work together with them. Like we work, we have a different set of work, they have a different set of work, and then we together work to find out what errors, what can be done the best, how it can be resolved, all these kind of things. So, and next comes the database designer, which we discussed. They will design this database. After that, the data will be captured in the EDC. After that, the data will be validated, which we also discussed. And after once all these completed, then comes this person, the medical coder, as in the coding. After that is completed, then we will be going to for database lock. And before those are here two steps I mentioned, like data validation, discrepancy management, data extraction. These steps differ from studies to studies in how orderly they will be followed. And once all these are completed, we will be going for database lock. And database lock has two parts, like we are data managers, another team is statistical programmers who checks that if certain dosage were missed or certain drugs or doses were not in the like appropriate count, like if a patient has to be administered only 10 ml but somebody has written there 20 ml, so that cannot go for a database lock, right? That is why we have statistical analysis or statistical programmers. Then after that we will have reporting, that is goes in phase 4. Then the study will be published and the medicine will be released in the market. So now here is the ECRF structure as in electronic case report, which you will see once you start working. That is demography, vital signs, basic measurements, medical history we discuss, certain laboratory examinations like your hematology, your bilirubin count, your like in hematology we have certain WBC differentials like eosinophil, monocyte, basophil. All these parameters will be collected in lab. After that, we have the adverse event, which also I was discussing. This will also come into picture. Now, moving to the next slide, which is the important, like how your growth will be once you join CDM, which is a very interesting thing. So, once you will be joining as a fresher, you will, because you are going first to the industry or to the company. So once you join as a junior or an associate, in certain companies, these terms vary company to company, which term your designation will be holding. So once it is completed, your onboarding is done and you are all ready to work. So you will be having trainings. You will be having very basic trainings like Microsoft Excel, PowerPoint, Word, everything. These are Microsoft related trainings. Now comes your work related trainings, like how you will be navigating in the database, what all vital things you need to have a check up on, how you will be reading the protocol, how you will be understanding the protocol, what all you cannot read a 500-page protocol in one day. So for that, they will be showing you certain key points which you always have to keep in mind. Or you can always, while working like we do, we open the protocol and keep it on one tab of the computer, so that it is always easy for us to refer. We do not have to memorize everything, because the protocol gets amended, gets changed on maybe monthly, twice monthly, like that. It depends from again study to study. So once your this phase is completed, you will be doing query management, which is the most vital thing of a data manager. You will be asked in your interview that what all work you are expected to do when you join the company. You can highlight this point like query management, which is betterly termed as discrepancy management. You will be reading the protocol, you will be understanding it, you will be understanding if like certain therapeutic areas are there, like oncology, like vaccines, like respiratory, like internal medicines, like CV med. All these are certain therapeutic areas which different people are divided to work. Not everybody will be working on only one therapeutic area. And also it differs the way of working, whether you will be handling one project from one therapeutic area or whether you will be having cross functional therapeutic area exposure. That depends. If you are working on vaccine trials like we have in our company, so there are certain now, as if you all know that Pfizer had discovered this COVID vaccine first. So we have main area of focus for people working in vaccines are COVID vaccine. There is one of COVID, there is one of COVID booster studies. Then there are various vaccines, because vaccine studies are very limited. They will only come once a year or twice a year. They will not be ongoing whole like for 3 to 4 years. But in oncology, your area of exposure is huge. Like people will be working continuously, and there is no such thing called work pressure. We work in a very light manner. So that is a first healthy thing of a company which everybody should have to keep in mind. So in my position here, I perform daily reviews. That is my daily activity. I perform query management, so like that way. And then once you progress to the senior associate, you'll be having different work, techniques. I am not aware of this, like I have not moved to this position yet. And for the senior associate, these are the person who designs that protocol. And this manager and clinical data science, they will be assigning you work, what work you will be doing. And after that, it's your manager position. Like we all have managers whom we report to. That's your hierarchy of CDM. The next is we have discussed all these things in details. What work, who does, data manager does what, database programmer or designer does what, medical coder does what. Then clinical data coordinator is a new thing. This person is associated with hospital side. Okay. And then we have QC persons who will check the accuracy of data. And data entry associate is similar to data manager. Okay. So next is we have, now I had already discussed what is the importance of CDM, why it is a growing field. We have sponsors, CROs, we have sites, and then they have their process of correcting the data, evaluating the data. Now moving to the next slide. These are certain tools you will see once you join organizations. Oracle, Macro, Rave, Medidata. Different companies use different kind of softwares. So I could not give a picture because it's also company confidential. So like that way. Now comes your job opportunity and career growth, or what is your interview takeaway ready. So these are certain CROs, contract research organization, which I discussed already. IQVIA, Cineos, Accenture, Icon, PPD, then Medidata, and many more companies are there, and they are your sponsor companies like Pfizer, GSK, Lilly, Novo Nordisk, AstraZeneca, J&J, Novartis. So like that way. And your interview ready is you should have very good speaking qualities and understanding qualities, high proficiency in English, then good communication skills. They don't ask many things in interview, they will ask very few questions in interview, like what experience I had. Basically I was not asked too many questions, only few, 3 to 4 questions about yourself. You have to introduce yourself, what is your name is, what you have gathered knowledge about the company. And it's always good to have a company knowledge, like how many drugs they are having in their pipeline. You can get all those information from Google easily. and you have to know about certain basic terms. You have to be a good listener, like that way. So those are certain very basic things for takeaway for the interview. You should be telling that them when they ask in your interview that how good are you for this company. So you have to tell that I will be effective in whatever work I do. I will be accurate in that. I will be having good time management. I can act as a good team player, as in you will be giving all your 100% in the work which you are doing, like we all do, because we are responsible for our work. So like that way you will be actively taking part in every activities, be it study related, be it anything which they want to know from you. So this is what, and it comes to the end of my slide. Now I'll move on to the questions which all of you have.
Ma'am, which is best for job, clinical research or clinical data management?
Clinical research basically relates to R&D. So I, being a CDM person, will always suggest you go for CDM. You will learn more. You can relate to what all you have studied in your bachelor's or in your master's you will study. So CDM is always a good opportunity.
Thank you.
Is there any scope to join this CDM after BPharm?
Yeah, you can definitely start applying once you reach your fourth year's first semester. You prepare your CV, start applying. So, but sponsor companies less chance, but you always should take a chance, and CROs better chance.
Thank you, ma'am.
Become.
Okay, we got one question from the YouTube that do we need that CDISC guidelines anything for the that is necessary for CDM job?
Yes, you should have a basic, very basic idea for CDISC guidelines and also ICH GCP guidelines. Some companies ask those questions in interview.
Okay, another good question: salary for freshers.
Okay, salary for freshers according to today's market, if you are joining in CRO, they have, I can't tell you the approx like yearly package CTC, but I can tell you they give around, if it's a Bangalore based company, then around 30 to 35 around. Not, don't expect up to 35, but it will be around 30. And if it's sponsor company, same, like above 30 a little bit. So that's what, but it will be all in 30s only.
Okay, you have mentioned several times that B Pharma and M Pharma can apply for this job. So other than the B Pharma, M Pharma, other life science candidates cannot apply for this job role.
Yes, people who are reading, I mean not reading, who are having biotech BTech, they can also apply, and they can directly apply after their bachelor's, after their master's. But master's in MTech, the chance lessens.
Ma'am,
Yeah, somebody was saying something.
ma'am, why
Yeah,
do
please
we
ask
have,
us.
ma'am,
Yeah.
I was asking that why do we have less chance in sponsor companies?
Because sponsors want a little bit experience people, like maybe 1 year experience. So like that way, because they are the companies where they work with these Cognizant Wipro as clients. So you don't have to work day and night there. So that is why when they're giving you that opportunity, they expect you to have at least 1 year of experience. But now all sponsors have started taking freshers.
Okay,
Okay.
another good question that how to find a job for a freshers. This is very difficult to freshers to find out a job in the CDM. So how they will find a job
Yeah,
for
you
CDM?
can. Yes. You can apply through LinkedIn. You can connect with various company persons as in HRs. You should have a good LinkedIn profile. Connect with them, send them connection requests, because they are the person who will accurately tell you what hiring, when hiring, and what qualification is required. So that way, and also you can follow every company page that you get to see. If you create a job alert, you will get to see that when their hiring starts or they release one job vacancy, it comes in the like name of clinical data associate, data manager, clinical data manager. You have to very minutely read the JD, job description, and then you can start directly apply via LinkedIn easy apply.
Okay, thank you for this wonderful season, Procheta. And I will tell everyone that we are coming with some certification course, because obviously when you are doing some bachelor degree, master degree in different zone in the pharmacy and life science, so you need to improve your skill, and that you can do by doing some certification course and some in-hand training. So we are coming, Pharmagen DRX are coming with that in-hand training and certification course. So those who are connected with the Pharmagen DRX, they will always get the some job notification that where the job are available for that, in the for the clinical research, clinical data management, also for the pharmacovigilance and in the different sector. So we are going to introduce some new things for the West Bengal as well as for the India. So that will be very helpful for the students. Thank you, Prochita, for this wonderful season, and that was very helpful for the students. They asked many questions. If anyone want to ask many more questions, just send us email to pharmagenrx1@gmail.com, or send to me or anywhere where you have connected with the Pharmagen DRX. Then we will give you the answer. So there are another question also from the Kuldeep. Kuldeep, please ask the question.
Okay, I read the question in the chat box. Like skill courses you can do for getting job. No such certification course for B Farm or M Farm people. You don't need any certification course like that way. You can directly apply after your bachelor's or master's is completed. Yeah, you can have courses like PowerPoint, Excel, Word, Outlook, Microsoft Teams. All these courses you can have.
Yes, but you should have that knowledge on the CDM, clinical research, or any job profile where you have applying. So you should have the proper knowledge and how you will beat the interview. That is very much important, because nowadays for one job profile there are at least 10,000 people are applied for the that job role. So that is very much important to make yourself ready for that job profile. Okay.
And just one more thing, always try to make your resume or CV in within one page for freshers, because companies don't read CVs of 2 pages.
Exactly. Thank you, Pochita. Thank you for this wonderful season.
Thank you for giving the opportunity.
So again, we'll come with the another season with a different sector of the pharmacy and for the life science candidates. Thank you everyone for participating in this webinar.